Welcome everybody. Joining you here tonight, right before Week 6, the Bears Jaguars. And David, I wanted to just kind of start this off by just kind of going at the title of what I named tonight's show, creating momentum. The Bears
Mm.
have a chance here to do something that we have not seen Matt Eberflus do in his tenure, and it's something that's necessary. If you ever won a Super Bowl, you're going to have to win 3 playoff games in a row, and they haven't even gotten 3 victories in a row. If you go out there and you beat the Jaguars, this will be the first time in Matt Eberflus's career that this team would have strung together 3 wins in a row, and that's huge to me. It's a statement thing. You need to be able to go out there and do that, especially coming off of a week where you had the opportunity to dominate a team, and you did. You went out there and did. And I know we kind of went back and forth on that when we talked about it on Saturday. The opportunities there. This Panthers team is a bad football team. I mean, 12 men on the field on both sides of the ball. You're not going to face another football team all year that's going to get penalties like that, that's going to shoot themselves in the foot and allow you the opportunity to sit there and, put up big numbers and score a lot of points. So it's definitely a feel-good game for the guys in the locker room and everything like that. We aren't the ones that are going to get super overly excited. However, those were our expectations, or at least mine, and they have met them. Good. Check it off the list. Move on. Next thing to get is 3 wins in a row.
There's a lot to unpack there. That's for sure. On the momentum side, yeah, it's like insanely vital that this team gets their first 3-game win streak in a row ever. Possibly 4, possibly 5. Like, that's what you need to see from this team. Being a Bears fan and knowing this team, I don't know, like every week is a toss-up, right? So even though this kind of momentum is building and it's giving us some confidence, some false confidence, maybe. I don't know. I mean, don't be surprised with a sloppy game against Jacksonville. I hate myself sometimes when I'm like the pessimist on the show or pessimist in my just conversations, because it's easy to be a pessimist and then the team does well, and so you're just happy, and then so like you're wrong, but you're happy. So it's easy that way. But I was dead wrong about Carolina, and you were right. It was a really good building experience, and the week of press conferences and things that I've heard so far from the Bears, my man crush on this team is building so hard, and I don't want to get too excited, but it's right there, and it just feels like it's right within reach of just getting super excited about this team and getting like that man crush, specifically on Caleb, because he's just awesome. I don't see anything against Jacksonville that makes you question the matchup, right? You should dominate them on defense. The offense is probably better than their defense. It is what it is. If you win, you can only face your opponents. I'm dangerously close to just getting really emotionally upset when the Bears lose. Right now, I wouldn't be shocked by a Jacksonville win, and I wouldn't be like super upset about it. But I'm at the point where I'm dangerously close to getting really pissed off if the Bears start to suck again.
What's interesting is the Panthers were the last ranked defense in the league last week, and now they flip flopped with the Jaguars. So going into this week, the Jaguars are now the last ranked defense. So the opportunity for another good offensive performance is there against this team. I think we do match up here really well against the Jaguars. The plane ride home for Doug Peterson and the Jaguars after a loss from London, that guy might be on the verge of getting fired soon, if that happens. So they're thirsty for a win. Like, they need to win. For them, they're starting to claw at desperation here from their point of view, and they might be willing to, pull out any trick they have. So I think it's going to be an interesting game. But I, as much as my preseason prediction, I said 3-3. My gut feeling right now is that we might be looking at a 4-2 football team after this week.
That would be wild, and that'd be awesome. I'm with you. My overall prediction for sure is a win. I think you're just a better football team. It's going to be sloppy, and it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be different because it's one of those 8:30 games. Like, Bears fans, you got to wake up early and watch it on your TV. 9 o'clock in the morning. It's one of my favorite games of the year. Like, this sounds awesome. Just like have a cup of coffee with the Bears game. It's going to be awesome. I have not seen a game that's going to kind of dictate the vibe of this team more than this Jacksonville game, because you beat the shit out of the Panthers, and that was one of those games where it's over by halftime, But if you can do that against Jacksonville, we're all going to be freaking out. But if you win a close game, that's okay too. And then if you lose, if it's close, I guess it's acceptable, but not really. But if you get dominated by Jacksonville, it's unacceptable. And we're back. I think we flip-flop incredibly. It's an incredibly emotional game, I think, in this week with Jacksonville.
It's extremely important. It's very pivotal. You're right. This will set a huge tone moving forward, especially since we have the bye week afterwards. The schedule is set up in such a weird way. We've never really had a schedule like this where all these division games are at the end. I thought this would benefit us from the angle of giving our offense time and opportunities to gel in the first 8 games without having that divisional game pressure on it. And so that way we enter in the back half of the season, as experienced as we possibly can on offense. However, we're seeing teams like the Vikings get off to a really early hot start. And do you think that actually all benefits us because they might cool down at the end of the season? Like, they can't possibly keep this up. Do you think it benefits us from the injury standpoint? Some of these teams might be a little bit more beat up when we actually face them. So do you think it's even more beneficial than we originally thought for a variety of reasons? Or do you think that going into it with the Vikings being like a powerhouse team or something might actually hurt us? How do you feel about all that?
This is why me and you just absolutely despise the commentary on strength of schedule. We have always said that strength of schedule is absolute nonsense. And as I think the Bears season shakes out, this is what it's a perfect demonstration of it. Like, Tennessee is probably bad, but they're mediocre and they're in the middle. And as we go through the schedule, we have like Commanders and Cardinals and Patriots and Packers. Yeah, were good teams on the slate on paper, but it really doesn't matter because you have to hit them at the right time with the right health injuries and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. This schedule 100% benefits the Bears. Whether or not that's a good thing for us long term, and like, let's say you win too many games, Eberflus sticks around and nothing changes and we stay stagnant. It is what it is. I guess let's get to the playoffs before we start thinking Super Bowl. But yeah, for sure, because the Vikings, I think, are a nice idea. Will they maintain it? I think everybody in the NFL at this point is just like, okay, every single game, the more you do it, the more we believe in you. But I think everybody's waiting for that other shoe to drop. Packers wise, I think the more the Packers go on in the year, I think there's just more paper. There's more tape to kind of analyze on them. And I don't know how I feel about the Packers right now. They are the same record as us. It is what it is. And then in terms of Detroit, yeah, for sure. They're a powerhouse and they're always steady. So the best case scenario is that we catch them at the end of the year when we're on a hot streak and they're dealing with some sort of injuries or a low streak. So I think the schedule shakes out the best case scenario for this year being successful. I think the NFL schedule makers know what they're doing with that, in the sense of knowing Caleb Williams is interesting. There's a lot of primetime games at the end of the year. So we're going to see that for sure.
So, you know me, I like to go into history and kind of look at historical analytics to kind of drive some of my points sometimes. And just because history repeats itself and there's tendencies and things like that. So teams that have gone 5-0 and missed the playoffs, right? Since 1990, it's only happened 6 times. 93, the Saints, they finished 8-8. 2003, the Vikings finished 9-7. 2009, the Giants finished 8-8. 2009, the Broncos finished 8-8. 2015, the Falcons finished 8-8. And you know who the last one was? 2016.
5-0 team
that missed the playoffs.
5-0 team that missed. Chargers.
The Vikings. Again.
No way.
8-8. So if anybody is experienced in going 5-0 and missing the playoffs, it's actually the Vikings more than anybody else. So it would be kind of hilarious, in my opinion, to have them on that list.
Yeah,
for a third time, because that would just kind of be wild. But yeah, so it doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. These teams can flutter out, and I know we all remember the 7-3 year with Jay Cutler when we were playing against the Chargers, and he ran down a pick six, hurt his thumb, and we went 9-7 that year. We only won 2 more games that year after that.
Right.
So you can definitely be a hot team and still mess it up at the end of the year. So that's what I'm hoping for now, man. I'm hoping that these teams in our division that are hot, like the Vikings, kind of cool off, come back down to earth, man. Sam Darnold is not the league MVP. That's just he is right now.
Can't happen, right?
It's not
Like,
gonna pan out. It's just not. There's no way. I don't know. I can't get behind it and believe it. But
I guess to kind of combine that question with the future of the season, do you see progress with a Bears team? Because my biggest concern, and yet again, I'm going to call myself out when I'm wrong, and I think it's my Luke Getsy PTSD of I never had confidence in Luke Getsy to change week to week, to change his game plan. Are the Bears actually improving in terms of consistency, in terms of game plan, in terms of what they're doing fundamentally as a team? Or do you think this is just kind of like Shane Waldron getting bullied? Or is he is he actually maybe a decent offensive coordinator who's actually learning from his mistakes and kind of changing the way his team should play based on what he needs to do?
I think that the Bears have been in a great situation for the offense to be able to grow because they are a defensive led team and that defense has been showing up. It has been doing its job. It's been getting turnovers. They've been getting pressure. They've been doing their part in the game. And so that makes it a lot easier when you don't have to completely lean on the offense, and it gives the offense a little bit more room to be able to make mistakes and still have the games be fine. And so I think just situationally, that allowing Caleb to grow, I think, is the most important factor. I think if Caleb gets good, then Shane Waldron is good enough to call plays and
Mm.
have success. I think there's a lot of coordinators in this league that are good enough. I think there's very few coordinators that take quarterbacks and elevate them through play calling and things like that. I think most of the time it's the other way around. I think most of the time you have the quarterbacks that are looked to make their play callers look good in a way through, you know what I mean? I don't know. I tend to give more credit to the guys on the field all the time. So, there's definitely ways that offensive coordinators can make it as hard as possible for a quarterback to look good. I don't think that's what we have going on. So I don't think it's a complete dumpster fire. And as long as you're flexible in your philosophy and in your thought, then communication goes a long way. I think Caleb's not afraid to communicate, even 6 weeks in. You know, we saw Justin being a very reserved guy. No, Caleb's getting it out there. I think if he's got a problem, it's going to be known and hopefully addressed and fixed. Right. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how stubborn Shea Waldron is. I know Luke Getsy was pretty stubborn, which doesn't usually go a long way. Mike Martz was the worst. Like, no, this is just what we're doing, period. There is no fluctuation. That's not what I think we have here. I think, and I hate using this because I'm not the wait more, give it time guy, but obviously this thing is all still very fresh, right? So if we're looking to have success with this, I think it's going to be in years forward. This year, they'll figure a lot of stuff out.
My question for you is, we say all the time, defense is super fickle. It's like the 2018 Bears team that went to the playoffs with Trubisky and all that stuff. Like, that was awesome. And then everybody in 2019 was like, we're going to do that again. We're going to have we're going to have 8 pick sixes just like last year. Is what the defense is doing right now sustainable, or is this them peaking and we expect the defense to have the natural drop off as they do?
So sustainable for this year?
Sure.
Yes.
Let's finish this year before we move on to next.
Yes. Defense year to year is what's hard to sustain, right? Like that's the real trick there, to be like a top defense every year. However, when you're rolling and you're going hot, man, yeah, you can make this thing last till the end of the year, no problem. And I think a big positive is actually, that defensive end position opposite of Montez Sweat. We had a huge opportunity there for somebody to come in and succeed. And the way we addressed it was with a fifth round pick for Austin Booker and a 6th-round pick for Darrell Taylor. And both those guys have taken that opportunity and done a lot with it. They are creating pressure from that other side, and that's very, very, very beneficial. Like, that's one of those things that's actually improving our defense and helping it grow and flourish. We still have a very young secondary, but a very tough, good tackling secondary. They don't let many guys get past them. I mean, I'm really actually kind of surprised with how well they tackle. It's all you're finding very little broken tackles from guys that are being hit by the secondary, and that is a very good thing. And like I said, they're all on their first contracts, except for Kevin Byard, right? But you have and Jalen Johnson obviously just got paid, but like what
an upgrade. Nobody's ever really talked about this. This is the first time even I've heard of it, and it's me saying it. What an upgrade Kevin Byard was over Eddie fucking
because
Jackson.
Now what you have is you have Kevin Byard being the safety blanket and Jaquan Brisker being the guy that's able to take risks. And I think he's proven, like, he was a sack leader.
He's better at it.
He's much better at it, where before it was Eddie that's got the gut feeling and is going to go in.
And his gut feeling was like,
and correct. Jaquan had to be the safety blanket. And so those roles have kind of switched. And I think it's for the better. And Kevin Byard being, a long-time player in this league is much better at being a safety blanket. Much more patient. It's a very, very, very good addition to this defense. And you're right. It's made a huge difference. Allowed the guys in the secondary to play a little bit more aggressive and flourish. And so, yeah, like I said, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, they're on the rookie deals. Same with Jaquan Brisker. Those are three guys that are still very young. So, this could still stay consistent for sure. And I mean, year to year, it's got the potential to. Till the end of this year, yeah, I think they're playing lights out. I think they're going to continue that. Hell, man, add another weapon on the D line if you can. I know they're not available, but that would really.
Trey Hendrickson is definitely available.
That would, I mean,
let's say if the Bengals lose this week, there is I'm going to say there's a 95% chance Trey Hendrickson is not on this team. Dude, I know we said this yesterday. If the Bengals go 1-5, I'm in the boat of, I think Jamar Chase gets traded.
Yeah, I mean, he's on their books for a lot, right?
They can't pay Joe. They can barely pay Joe Burrow. I don't think they can pay Jamar Chase and Trey Hendrickson as well.
So this is the problem you get to. Like, the quarterbacks didn't take up so much of the cap. You need to make wide receivers out of no names, not have big names as wide receivers, because it just never works out that way. So, I mean, yeah, dude, I think the Kansas City model tells you trade Tyreek Hill away and get 2 first-round picks back. I think you trade Jamar Chase away, especially if you're having a season where if you're 1-5 and you have no shot, like you're saying, if you lose this next game and you have absolutely no shot, yeah, get some draft capital back in return and start retooling this thing, right? I mean, that's what makes the most sense. So, yeah, we talked about the trade deadline and how it's hard to predict those things because you need to find those teams that wind up being in situations where they thought they were going to be good and they're not. And so, yeah, the Bengals are primed to, like you said,
them and the Browns,
yeah, if they lose one more game, exactly. The Browns too, man. The Browns,
the Bears 2 weeks ago were the Browns, but with a young quarterback, and that's the big difference. And that's so funny because that's what you could be if you held on to. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to beat this dead horse again, but like the quarterback makes every difference, man. Like, the Browns defense is the Bears defense. The Browns offense is borderline the Bears offense. It's just, what's the difference is one has Deshaun Watson and one has Caleb Williams.
And one's paying the quarterback 25% of their salary.
Yeah.
Right.
And can't get rid of them.
It's rough, man. It's very rough. If I'm Kevin Stefanski, I want to do everything I can to get fired from Cleveland.
If I'm Kevin
Stefanski, I don't want to quit.
Kyle Shanahan, I want to come to Chicago.
You think Kyle Shanahan would want to come to Chicago?
If he gets fired, yeah. I don't think there's any job in the NFL that's more appealing than the Bears. If it's a job that's available next offseason, I don't think there's any job or situation more appealing than the Bears.
Wow, man. Yeah, I mean, but it's probably not going to be available.
Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how Matt Eberflus finishes this season, I think you're going to hit a ceiling eventually with that guy. But to kind of answer my own question with what I asked you, I think this defense, and I want to make fun of Matt Eberflus so badly for hits principles and all that stuff, but like, Jesus Christ, 3 years later, everything he says that he wants to do as a team, he's doing it. Hustling to the ball, nobody's taking plays off. It's just like back to '06 Bears where, you see those highlights where like 6 guys are just jumping on top of one running back, and it's just never going anywhere. And I wanted to make fun of Matt Eberflus so bad, so early. And I agree. And I think generally speaking, he's still bottom. He's in the bottom 30% of the coaches in the league. If there's 32 head coaches, I think he's in that bottom 12. There's 20 head coaches probably that make more of a difference or an impact than he does. But I mean, it's working on defense. At least he's probably going to, if he gets fired, he's going to be an absolute elite defensive coordinator for somebody.
In the past, maybe I did kind of undervalue the team not falling apart when they should have. You know what I mean? And stringing together and constantly, because after that Lions game where they had the 28-point lead and they gave it up, so they're not ever going to play that hard again. And they did. They came out the next week against the Vikings that had 4 more turnovers. So yeah, maybe that is valued a little bit more because these guys are playing tough, man. They're playing real tough for him, and this is a defensive-led team. And I don't think it's the most complex defense either, man. They're not doing anything special out there. So, but they do have guys that could get to the quarterback from multiple positions. You got a corner in Gordon that could get to the quarterback. You got a safety in Brisker that could get to the quarterback. You could splice in, and they have been now some weird blitzes, and they have been working. And Billings, man, Billings might be my favorite player to watch on that defense. I know it sounds funny, but like just going through the tape and putting videos together and stuff, seeing the fat man go, man, and he does not get, I guess I have also a soft spot for fat people. Okay. Right. But like, he does not take a play off. Guy hustles, has success, and just seeing him even get to the quarterback last game was awesome.
Very Keith Trailer like.
Yeah, that guy's actually a very underrated signing. We always talk about the free agents we got. We never mentioned Billings. He's made a big impact on that defensive line. Dexter has been showing up too. We got some good pressure up front, and it's important. They're clicking. They're really clicking, and I don't know. I like what I've seen.
It's one of the biggest conversation pieces that we had in the offseason, and it's just absolutely irrelevant now that the season has started. Is like, who's your next pass rusher? Who's you're going to be the guy getting pressure? It doesn't matter. The rotation is so solid that every single play, there's just a solid amount of pressure. That's probably the strongest part of your defense at this point. And it is, it's one of those things where we need to say, I'm sorry kind of thing. Like everybody does. The national media, local media, that was like one of the big 3 concerns. Everybody needs to say like, sorry, you guys did have it under control. Everybody was wrong.